Okay.
How are
Did
you?
you did you recover? Was it?
Brandon tell you I was feeling unwell?
Well, that's what your staff said.
Ah, they told you. Yeah,
So,
I
or was it you were stressed out over the debate between Schenck and that crazy Zionist?
no, I didn't even. I was out of it. I was meant to do interviews afterwards. Even that debate, I was just constantly zoning out. It was such a. Even my team was like, Mario, what's wrong? Because I was like, I said, I'm like a deer in a headlight. But it's yeah. How was your conversation with Brandon? I'm glad he filled in. He did all the interviews.
Oh, it was terrible. We had an awful time. We were sitting there.
Yeah, I
I
knew
can't
it.
survive
He's
without
horrible.
Mario.
Sorry. Yeah, he is horrible. I knew it.
No,
Sorry to put
we
you through
had
that suffering.
no, we had a good time. I keep forgetting he's almost a neighbor. He's just an hour
Oh,
south
really?
of me. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
You
I
guys
got
should catch up.
to tell your staff, send me his email. I need to communicate with him directly so we can get together for
Yeah.
lunch.
Do you use Signal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll connect you on. I have a Signal personally. I'll get my team to connect you guys via email. I'll tell them now. Hold on. Done. Yeah. So today I'm back. It was just it was an insane day. It was like a reminder of how important it is to be mentally okay. Like I was thinking about it yesterday. I'm like, wow. Like it was just that one day I was feeling unwell. But imagine like you're mentally impaired for whatever reason. Everything
You
becomes
mean like Donald
insignificant then.
Trump? Like Donald Trump? You were having a Trump moment yesterday. Is that what was going on?
Touche. That was a good one. Well thought. You're sharp today. You're on top of it today. That's for sure.
Try to be.
All right. So I want to start with a story that came out of Israel, out of Khan News that no one's really talking about. And my first question is not your comments on the story. That's the second question. The first question is, do you think the story's you think it's legit or it's being leaked to advance a certain narrative? So I'll read out the summary of the story. Officials from one Middle Eastern country advised counterparts in another regional state to show tactical flexibility toward Israel and reach an agreement intended to lull Israel into sleep while preparing for a larger future conflict, according to Khan News. The proposed strategy involved reaching an agreement with Israel to lower its guard while simultaneously preparing for war. Before breaking the agreement, once preparations are complete, Israeli military censorship prohibits identifying either of the two countries involved. So essentially, what it's saying here is one country in the Middle East is telling a counterpart in the Middle East to say, "Hey, do a deal with Israel, let them feel secure, let them feel safe, and then prepare for war. And then when you're ready for war, break that agreement." Now, it doesn't say break that agreement and attack Israel.
You mean?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you mean do to Israel what Israel did to Iran?
You are very sharp today. See, it didn't cross my mind either.
That would
Well played again.
That would be that'd be a little bit of karma, wouldn't it? Yeah. No. I look. I think this is part of the whole election ambiance in Israel, ginning up these stories. About they're going to sucker punch us. They're going to do to us what we did to them. Well, that would be some rich irony. But yeah,
But do you think this is being leaked intentionally to like kind of create a false sense of they're working against us? There's a security threat. That's been the case for decades.
I don't think they need to leak that to the Israelis are already paranoid enough as it is. I mean, that what was that guy's name? Eichel, the debated Sank.
Yishai.
Yishai. I mean, just listen to that cat. Everybody's coming to get us. We got to stop. The paranoia among these Zionists is extreme, and so they've convinced themselves of a narrative, and this fits right in with that narrative. Those sneaky, dastardly Arabs, they're gonna lull us to sleep by saying that they're gonna be our buddies under the Abraham Accords, and then wham, they're going to attack us. I said, just like we did to Iran in the midst of peace talks, that was the United States, but still, it was done at the behest of Israel.
So what I meant is by leak, I didn't mean as a leak. I meant it's being planted there to create a narrative. A leak would mean that it's a true story. You mean this is being fabricated as a way to create a narrative, to create a security threat, to keep that same foreign policy
Well,
ahead of the elections. In other words, it's not true.
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't think it's true, but it's still. There have been lots of leaks that aren't true. Leaks that are designed to shape public narrative and to drive public opinion one way or the other. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's no. Again, the failure to identify who are these two countries: the United Arab Emirates and the Saudis. Yeah. Oh, we're the only country. There are only two countries in that whole region that have the ability to launch an attack on Israel. Would be Iran and Turkey. Everybody else is useless.
Yeah. By the way, the producer will just take you off for 2 seconds to fix your connection, Larry. But based on that report that I've talked about earlier, guys, it in one of the previous interviews I did, I was talking about this report briefly, and I said it makes it seem like this country is trying to trick Israel into an alliance. Prepare militarily reminds me of the war decades ago against Israel, where it was caught by surprise. Kind of a similar strategy to kind of lull them into a feeling of complacency and then attack. Sorry, not attack, and then break the agreement. So it makes it seem like what they're advocating for here is an attack on Israel. But another way of looking at it, and that's assuming the story is true. And I'm skeptical about the story as well. But if it is true, it could also mean they don't trust Israel. So they want to make a deal with Israel so they can build up militarily to be ready in case Israel attacks them. So that's another way of looking at that same story. But the big question would be, if this story is true, who are those countries? An argument to support the story would be, if the story was not true, if it's being planted there to create a certain narrative, why not name the countries? Otherwise, what's the point of the story? It still achieves its objectives. Its objective of maintaining a sense of fear in Israel, similar to what Naftali Bennett keeps talking about. Qatar is the biggest threat non-stop. It's been a week and a half. All Naftali Bennett talks about. He even said today, Qatar is a bigger threat than Iran. Then you've got all these different ministers talking about how Turkey's a threat. Obviously, they've always been talking about how Iran's a threat. There's rumblings here and there about Egypt and Pakistan. So it definitely fits into that whole kind of political narrative of we're the victim, we're being surrounded by all these countries that want to destroy us. But if the story is true, my guess, if I had to guess who those countries would be, I would have guessed, my guess earlier when I thought about it was this would be Iran advising Saudi, telling the Saudis, hey, we don't mind you do the Abraham Accords, do it, but you need to build up your military. And then once you build up your military, you give that sense of security, that false sense of security to Israel, then you could break the agreement and maybe they think about attacking Israel later on. So that's one potential theory. I'm not sure what you think of it, Larry, that the Iranians are telling Saudis what they're okay with in terms of the agreement with or maybe with the not Emiratis, because they have an agreement already with Israel, but with getting an agreement between Saudi, the Iranians telling the Saudis to get an agreement with the Israelis to just trick them, but prepare for military confrontation.
Yeah, like I said, there's only two countries that could attack Israel: Turkey and Iran.
Yeah.
Who are the others? It's not
Unless
the
they come
Saudis
together. If the others come
or the
together, what if there's
Emiratis.
like the Saudis, the Turkey can, but if you have Qatari, Saudis, and others, including Turkey, etc., as a coalition.
So a coalition, they don't bring anything to the table. What are the Saudis going to do? They'd have to fly planes in. Flying planes in. I think what remains of the Israeli air defense would be quite capable of shooting down those planes. Yeah, so this, like I said, this story really doesn't add up. There are two countries that could carry out the attacks and sustain it: Turkey and Iran. And Turkey, again, they don't have a bunch of missiles. They'd have to try to launch drones, and the only way they could do that is if they brought the drones into Syria and launched from there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think this is more just election hubbub.
Do you worry about a conflict, potential conflict between that new alliance, Saudi, Pakistan, Turkey, potentially Egypt? And there's a nice story on this that you'd like, by the way, a CIA-like story. But do you think there could be a conflict between that coalition and Israel later on, considering the current state of affairs in the region?
Yeah, potential. Well, who's threatened to attack the others? You haven't had Turkey or the Saudis threatening to attack Israel. You've had Israel threatening to attack Turkey. You know, I'm saying now once we get done with Iran, we're coming after them. So again,
Erdogan is not a saint. He did say, I think he said once, I could be wrong, so people could fact check it, we will march into Jerusalem or something along those lines.
But quite different from you've had senior Israeli officials talking about. They said once we get done with Iran, we're going after Turkey.
Yeah. The story. So there's another interesting story for a former CIA intel analyst. You ready?
The CIA part. Let's hear it. Rip away.
Yeah, so this came out from. I'll find the source afterwards. I forgot to write the source. Saudi, Turkey, and Pakistan wanted Egypt to be part of their new alliance. But after providing President El-Sisi with a piece of intelligence bait, as in false intelligence, it was discovered he provided the information to America. After this, it was decided that Egypt was not trustworthy enough to be included in the alliance, according to a source who spoke on the matter. So essentially, they baited Egypt, gave them intelligence to see if they're going to share it with the Americans, which says two things. Number one is there's a trust issue in the region. But number two, something, when I mentioned the story to Alex Jones, he had a really interesting observation. He's like, Mario, the big message I got from this is that these countries, that alliance, the Mecca Alliance, the Gulf, don't trust the United States. Because why would they care if Egypt shares with the US? So you've got Saudi, an American ally, Turkey, part of NATO, and Pakistan, close to the US and praising Trump. All of them, based on this report, we can deduce that they don't trust the United States of America.
And why should they?
And
this is a sanity. They proved that they're not insane. Yeah. Remember, it was in June when they were busy in Switzerland trying to finish the deal between the MOU, that the foreign ministers of Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Turkey, or Turkey, they met in Egypt to talk specifically about this alliance. So yeah, I think that's actually a pretty credible report, because initially I think it was envisioned Egypt would be part of it. Right now they're not. Sisi's too, he's got too much money invested in the United States. He's just another expensive prostitute in an ugly suit.
Jesus, man, you're gonna get me banned from so many countries. There's Egypt.
No, they shouldn't ban. You didn't say it. I said it. They'll ban me from being there.
Yeah. And then Alex also said, because I was just talking to him about this, and he also said another interesting observation. He said, Mario, it's the reason. Well, actually, I'm going to add my part to it, to what he said. Is the issue is not really trusting the US because of the US. The US is an ally to Turkey, is an ally to Saudi, is close to Pakistan. The issue is trusting the US means trusting Israel. Giving intelligence to the US means giving intelligence to Israel, which is meant to be the point of the alliance, is long-term at least, deterring Israeli aggression and Israeli foreign policy. Correct. So imagine if they share information with the US, an ally of theirs that ends up sharing it with Israel, then I'd be pretty understanding of their skepticism of the US.
Yeah, well, that comes, as we talked yesterday. Oh, you didn't hear. Brandon and I talked about it. The symbolism of signing that agreement in Mecca was, I don't think, just an accidental choice or a move of convenience. It was designed to send a very clear message that this is an Islamic alliance.
Yeah.
And Egypt had a chance to be a part of that, and I guess they decided, nope, can't trust them.
But I think they will be. I think but it's just a matter of time. I think we'll see Qatar part of them. The only big question is the Emirates. And this is a very significant development. I know it's kind of been on the news for a couple of days and people just moved on. I think it's a very, very important development. It signals a lot. It signals a concerted effort against Israeli behavior in the region. And number two is avoid being left by the United States. It's now pretty difficult to challenge the theory that the US will start leaving the region or lost the faith of the countries in the region. Actions speak louder than words, and that's probably the loudest action any country could take is forming an alliance to replace the United States of America.
Well, what has the United States done to provide some sense of assurance to those countries that being allied with the United States is in their self-interest? Has the United States been able to prevent, the Saudis from being attacked? No. Has the United States reined in Israel from making threats against Turkey? No. Of course, look, the Turks, I don't want to hear any whining and complaining from them about big bad Israel. They're the biggest enablers of Israel's bad behavior as anybody. They keep the oil flowing. Israel can keep launching air strikes and ground strikes. Cut off that oil, Israel can't do the air strikes and ground strikes like it has been doing.